into the future where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, Funkhouser, have you heard of this idea of universal basic income, UBI? You hear this? This is the thing?
It sounds like it is coming from my home country, and the Soviets. No, wait, that's probably the only place I may have heard it. What is it?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of lefties have talked about the universal basic income, where the government would pay each citizen a small income. And this is, sort of classic. You'll get the classic free market opposition to this sort of thing. Like, you're talking about redistribution of wealth, you freaking commies. But recently, a lot of right-wing types have jumped on this. And Charles Murray, who's this conservative political scientist, has started advocating for it. And it's interesting, his take on the idea of universal basic income and the fact that he thinks we're going to be seeing it. We'll get into it later, I suppose. Oh, I can name that tune in one note. Two. Now.
What is it now?
This is Snot.
Snot? How could you say such a thing on the radio? We're on the radio, right?
You think it's this band, but it's Snot. These guys are amazing. Amazing. This was a band that, in case you did not know, came
about 20
out,
years
I
old
guess,
now.
In the late 90s, and were supposed to be this huge thing. They came out at the same time as people were getting introduced to Deftones and Korn and all these bands that went on to be kind of huge.
Yeah.
And these guys were on the same path, but then their lead singer, an amazing guy called Lynn Straight. I mean, just incredible voice, huge amounts of energy and passion. So
yeah,
good.
and it's an album,
good.
front to back. It was a whole album you can listen to. There was no filler. So
I still listen to this album every once in a while. I'll pull it out, and when I do is when I want to sort of kind of have a bit of a life-affirming experience. So much energy to this record, and so it's just like a celebration of life. And then what happened, sadly, was Lynn, lead singer of this band, died in a car crash. A place where, weren't you saying that a lot of people have died in car crashes in the same spot?
It's cross traffic on the Coast Highway in California, where everyone's staring out in the ocean and they don't see the oncoming car in their way. Bam! I think that's where Sam Kinison also died, if I recall correctly.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. And
there's a hole in all of our hearts because there's no more Snot.
There's two interesting things about this band. One was when I was a kid and I was, just sort of hitting the road in America, I loved them so much. And someone gave me a copy of their album. I was like, this is great. This is fantastic. And I listened to it over and over again. And then there was this girl, or a couple of girls, that used to follow my band around. And
I hear that was a big problem in the 90s. Girls following bands around? Too bad it doesn't happen anymore.
Problem. I would imagine it does, but not in the same way. I don't know.
Insta following them around, I guess.
A little bit. Yeah. You can follow from your armchair. But this one band, I was this teenager in this band and everybody else was way older than me, and then this teenage girl started following us around, and I liked hanging out with her because she was my age and everybody else was old and crotchety, and turns out she was one of the biggest groupies of the Midwest. And I was like, she's my friend, and people were like, she's bad news, dude. But she told me once, she's like, oh, we totally got onto Snot's bus because I said I knew you. I was like, what?
Oh.
And she was like, yeah, the guys in Snot are big fans of yours. They would love to play shows together. And I man, my grinchy little heart was swollen 10 times that day. You have to turn it down. I'm too distracted. I want to rock out.
But it's about to end, though. Come on.
Okay. So good. So good. And it was so cool because I was like, oh, man, the guys in Snot like us. And I talked to a guy at a record promotions company that we were working with. I was like, you think there's a chance that Snot would want to play with us? And he was like, dude, those guys love you. I was like, no kidding. That's so cool. And so there was this idea that we were going to go play shows with Snot. And then Lynn, their incredible frontman and this incredible positive, just the amount of energy that radiated from this guy, not only when he played, but just in everything that he did. His voice, the songs that he wrote, is just an incredible, life-affirming thing to listen to the Snot album from start to finish. And
you betcha.
He passed away in a really kind of unfortunate way. So I never got a chance to meet him or play with him, and I was always bummed about that. I did, however, see him in adult entertainment. Were you aware that the lead singer of Snot?
No. There's always an angle.
There were several angles in this one performance. That's what she said there, too.
Real radio.
104.1.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
What I want, when I want, how I want. Every day you're going and working, running that rat race at that pace.
So yeah, this guy that sang in Snot, Lynn.
Mm-hmm. James Lynn Strait.
He was in adult entertainment. I can't even say the name of the film on the air. But it was actually kind of, in that world, a bit of a brilliant idea. There was this band, I think they're called Society One, and the lead singer of the band, who's still kind of like, I think, a thing. He became one of those dudes that hangs by meat hooks stuck through the flesh of his back. Yeah, he's like this, performance art dude. And I don't know if his band is still a thing, but back in those days, he was in a band, but he was also sort of like an adult filmmaker. And he would throw like bachelor parties for all these guys in nu metal bands when they got married. Like you'd throw, I don't know if John Davis got married, but you'd throw like John Davis and Fieldy's bachelor parties for the guys from Korn. And he made a series of adult cinema pieces called Backstage Skanks, except it wasn't skanks. It was a word that you can't say on the air. And what it was kind of creative and interesting and different. But it was guys in bands telling stories of groupies and what they saw them do or what they did with them. And then the stories that the guys in bands, like Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit would be on it, and like the guys from Korn would be on it, telling stories of what girls had done to get backstage and stuff. And then adult cinema actors would reenact the whole thing. Like, I think sometimes they'd even use the band's tour bus and shoot in there. Like, it's really weird. So that was the thing. Backstage skanks, but it wasn't the word skanks. And Lynn from Snot, being the type of guy that he was, the one that sort of went for everything 110% more than anybody else, was like, why do you have to hire an actor to play me? I could just be in the movie. So I remember somebody sent me a copy of this videotape. They're like, you got to see this. All these bands, all these sort of guys in bands that are on this, like telling stories of groupies, and it's getting a ton of publicity, and maybe you could be on it too. I was like, I don't have groupie stories. That's not a avenue of pleasure I've chosen to walk down in my life. But I popped it in, and I was like, oh, there's the guys from Limp Bizkit, there's the guys from Korn telling stories, there's guys from all these different bands telling stories about groupies, and there they are being reenacted. And then there's Lynn
playing himself,
and I was like, and the scene started at a show, and then it has him and his girlfriend meeting a groupie, and then I assume they're going to cut to the actor any second now. I was like, nope, there's Lynn's junk. There's okay. Wow. All right then. So yeah, he had quite the career.
After he died, all the bands got together and made a tribute album.
Yep.
Seven Dust did this song, and it charted and stuff.
Seven Dust did this song, and I remember Sugar Ray were the biggest band on the planet at the time, and Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray was a good friend of Lynn from Snot and Seven Dust and all those guys. He's not on this song, but he agreed to perform it live so the guys in Seven Dust could get on the Tonight Show. I thought that was kind of cool how he did him a solid.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people remember
to
the
quote
song.
What's His Face? It's been 20 years.
Did this song come out 20 years ago?
Well, it was around the late 90s. Or late 97 when all this stuff started happening.
They tried to put the band back together with, who was it? Tommy Vexed, I think it was. And he sang in a band called Vexed. And he was a singer in Snot for a little while. And he's like really good vocalist, but it's just like this band is not this band without, Lynn. And it was just, they did a tour and people really wanted to see the song sung. And, people showed up, bought tickets and whatnot. And then I think they tried to make another recording without their front man, and people weren't all that into it.
Yep.
So there you go. So this idea of the universal basic income, something we'll talk about a little later on in the show. But right now, though, Funkhouser, let's take a look at the events of today. What's going on in the world?
Oh, we're just rocking out to music. Pretty much. Oh, man. So much. You got to leave the TV off. Anthony Michael Hall was found guilty of assaulting his neighbor.
Oh, like Weird Science guy?
Yes.
Like Weird Science Breakfast Club guy? I remember that. I think he shoved him to the ground or something. I can't. Yeah, Anthony Michael Hall. He got all angry at a neighbor and physically assaulted him, and he was found guilty. And Hall will now be forced to share a jail cell with an athlete, a basket case, a princess, and a criminal.
This year's hot Halloween costumes include, can you guess?
Well, I mean, It is going to be.
Yeah. Number 2 was a big old Netflix thing.
It's got to be Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the scariest Halloween costume of them all, American healthcare.
Oh.
Did you watch that show Sense8 at all?
No.
It got canceled after 2 seasons. Like, the first one was kind of intriguing, and then the second one I think I haven't watched yet, and then they canceled it because it was too expensive. It was the guys that made The Matrix, the brothers that made The Matrix, that became sisters, I think.
Whoa.
And it was just too expensive, but it was really good.
For more stimulation and less irritation, 9 out of 10 doctors choose KPRC AM 950, Houston's more stimulating talk radio.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radioland. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do. That's the way you do what we do.
All right, Funkhouser, you and I will discuss the pros and cons of a universal basic income, a distinctly lefty idea that has been hopped on by some very esteemed conservatives recently. The idea that we would all get money for kind of doing nothing from the government, and that would supplement the rest of the way we went through life. We'll talk about that later. Right now, though, what else is going on?
That sounds fun.
Getting money does sound good, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. What's really interesting about this is, like I said, it's a distinctly lefty idea. Everybody should get some money for doing nothing. And this has people on the right. The idea that this could be a thing in America has people on the right hopping mad. This is commie redistribution of wealth. This is everything that makes America. This flies in the face of everything that America is about. This is in no way, shape, or form a representation of freedom or the free market economy. Like, why should I work so hard and then have some of my dollars go to that person for doing absolutely nothing? But there are now extremely highly esteemed right-wing conservative proponents of this idea, and it's sort of a fascinating take on why it might work and how it might shrink government and shrink it's interesting. We'll get to it.
Well, the United States has imposed harsh new sanctions against North Korea.
Yep, they're targeting banks that help sustain its weapons programs. companies that do business with North Korea, and also I believe targeting former basketball stars that wear a lot of makeup and visit it. I ran into Dennis Rodman a couple weekends ago.
You did?
Yeah, he was just hanging out at a festival. Someone
was he wearing a wire?
I don't know. Someone was like, "Do you want a picture with him?" And I was like, "No, I'll be fine. Thank you, no." But Dennis Rodman doesn't look like Dennis Rodman, and I've never seen him in person before this. He looks kind of like a wax figure of Dennis Rodman. There's something. Anyways, yeah. Interesting. How that happened is just absolutely beyond me.
Sorry, I'm distracted. Wiener sentenced to 21 months. That's what it said on my TV just now.
Yeah. Anthony Weiner's going down.
Just the bottom third comes up with words. Wiener sentenced to 21 months.
Go on.
North Korea says President Trump is like a barking dog.
I can't. There's a really, really obvious and no, I can't make that joke. Can't make that joke.
I get it. Oh, I got it though. I probably.
Yeah. By the way, this word that Kim Jong Un called President Trump, dotard. This had everyone reaching for their dictionaries. Kind of an SAT word. Did you hear this, Funkhouser?
No. What's a dotard?
Well, President Trump's recent threats against him drew a statement from Kim Jong Un. North Korean psycho Kim Jong Un responded to President Trump's threats against him, and in the process, he taught a lot of America a new word from our own language. I actually knew this because I'm a reader, but what's interesting is, and I say I'm a reader like that's some sort of badge of honor. You know what readers do? Readers pick up a lot of mispronounced words. So I've been reading this in books for years, but only now, thanks to Kim Jong Un, do I know how to pronounce it. He said, "I will surely indefinitely tame the mentally deranged U.S. dotard with fire." Dotard. So this had a lot of people wondering what the hell is a dotard. Like I said, one thing this did teach me was the pronunciation, dotard. And it means a person who is especially an old person, exhibiting a decline in mental faculties, a weak-minded or foolish old person, which is kind of a sick burn, but hard to play along with on this one since the implications are so serious. And the guy who is calling him a dotard is absolutely 100 million freaking % out of his ever-loving mind. Shaun of the Dead director Edgar Wright. He got it perfect. He summed it up with this tweet. He said, "Dotard is a good one to pull out of the bag. I wish I learned it doing a crossword instead of through being on the precipice of nuclear war." Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's what dotard means. We all learned a new and frightening word from
Shivers.
Kim Jong Un. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what is going on.
South Korea is launching a decapitation squad to kill the guy.
Like I said, absolutely crazy. South Korea, like the rest of the world, has realized this guy's very big trouble, and so it's funny because he's so completely begging the rest of the world to take his hand and dance into Armageddon, that a lot of people thought we just need to do away with this guy. You know, it's going to create some sort of weird power vacuum and who knows what happens there. But like, he's doing things that you just can't be doing. So we want to get rid of him. And to that end, South Korea was very vocal about the fact that they're launching a decapitation squad to kill Kim Jong Un. And by the way, that's the sound of opportunity knocking, Kathy Griffin. Like your idea, very unpopular with Trump. Ooh. But, you know, you want to join the South Korean decapitation squad. There you are. It's crazy. And like the idea of a decapitation squad, that's a whole show in and of itself, and maybe one that we'll do a little later on. But are we? I don't know. We weren't alive during that time. But, you know, during the Kennedy administration, that whole that moment where the entirety of the world held its breath, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and thought we were on the verge of all being turned into brown bread. I got to imagine this might be the closest we've gotten since then. It's really, really weird. I mean, like, everybody always thought, like, yeah, you know, global Armageddon's never going to happen. We all care too much. But you got, you know, you got President Thinskin over here and a crazy dictator who's absolutely out of his mind over there. And the thing that worries me about it so much is that Kim Jong just keeps doing these things. He's absolutely desperate to go to war. He's absolutely trying to provoke an act of aggression from someone else, which makes me feel he knows something that we don't know. Look, we have a bit of a history in America of underestimating potential threats. I mean, in the very recent history, there was President Barack Obama who said, like, yeah, ISIS, these guys are the JV squad, junior varsity terrorists. We don't need to be worried about them. And that was a huge mistake. And so hopefully people are not making the same mistake when it comes to Kim Jong, because, like, I can't imagine that he would be provoking the entire world to come at him. Like, he's basically standing there going, come at me, bro, to the entire world. And it's got to be because he's got something in his back pocket that either we don't know about or we're not being told about. So there you go. I mean, look, Trump, for all his fire and fury rhetoric, has basically sort of gone with sanctions, and I'm glad that's the case. And I have to think that he's going with sanctions instead of actual military aggression because he has the good sense to proceed cautiously. I don't know. We'll see. We're on the precipice of something potentially very ugly, and
precipice.
Hopefully the decapitation squad gets there first. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyways. So it gives me the screaming heebie-jeebies talking about this. Move on. What else?
Bernie Sanders here. Did you know that I'm touring the country to promote my health care plan? Did you know this?
Everybody's feeling
too close to the microphone. Bernie Sanders here.
Everybody's feeling the burn, and not just because they had sex with Usher. Bernie Sanders.
Hey man,
I think about this. I think about Bernie Sanders and him being elected and what that would have looked like. And I'm glad he didn't, because I think that Bernie Sanders is an interesting one because he gets a certain amount of respect from the right and the left. I mean, to many people, he's an absolute hero of the left. To many people on the left, he's the guy that lost Hillary Clinton the election. But what's interesting is, here's a guy who campaigned under the banner democratic socialism. Just the fact that the word socialism was part of his campaign platform and he got any kind of headway at all just shows how ready for something different people were in America. And boy, did we get something different. But in a lot of ways, I'm kind of glad that Bernie Sanders didn't get elected. He's an interesting one because, like I said, he's sort of viewed by people on the right and the left as a person of principle. The idea that a guy that ran under the banner of democratic socialism can get respect.
Do I look better as a vice president?
You can get respect from people on the right, and that is unthinkable.
What about secretary?
You would never imagine it in this completely polarized day and age that this is a guy that would in any way, shape, or form get any kind of anything other than absolute condemnation from folks.
I'm just looking for a statue.
For that reason, he's a valuable figure. And I kind of feel as though he has more power to do good not being president. Ted Cruz, up until we got into his porn history, I would have lumped in the same category. Where
we know what he likes.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, that's so unfortunate because hey, it's completely legal. Hot-blooded American male watching porn. It's so funny because all of Ted Cruz's supporters would absolutely. I've heard him talk about how he likes to go out and get drunk with some buddies of his that endorsed him, some Texas radio people, like, oh, we're good friends, we believe in the Constitution, and let me tell you, we've had a few too many beers occasionally together. And people like, yeah. He's out there getting ripped. How awesome, and all these different things. He cooked bacon on a machine gun. You ever see that thing? He wrapped a piece of bacon around a machine gun and fired it, and the heat from the barrel cooked it, and he ate it off of it. He's like, machine gun bacon. People love that. So you can cook bacon on a machine gun. You could get drunk out of your mind. But God freaking forbid you, a red-blooded American male that would be patted on the back for all the other exhibitions of red-blooded American maleness, watch a nudie flick. And he's absolutely taken heat for it, and his integrity is diminished by a serious chunk. And it's so stupid. It's so stupid that a guy like that has to, claim to be a holy roller to exist in his world. He could just be a constitutionalist and talk about freedom and, but no, because so much of his base of support is tied up in the right, the Bible thumping types, the sort of the right wing Bible thumpers. He's got to be seen to toe a line and to not be a guy who, like I said, enjoys the occasional nudie flick, even though it's absolutely within his purview as an American to do so. It's
purview,
a weird one,
another good word.
Sure.
Purview.
yeah. His
writing these down for my book tour.
Perv view. He's purviewing too much online porn.
I just want a statue.
Space. Go on. What else?
A woman says her parrot placed an Amazon order through Alexa without her knowing it. Crackers, rat! Crackers.
That's funny. That's funny.
You ordered.
I worry about this all the time because you can butt dial people, you can butt text people, you can accidentally post to Facebook on your phone if you don't have whatever set up, so you don't. What's it called when the little screen pops down and you can no longer text or do things? Your screen lock.
Yeah.
If your screen lock doesn't go on and before you put your phone into your pocket, you can do all sorts of weird stuff. And I always think, with that one-click purchasing that they have on Amazon, I'm amazed that I haven't bought more stuff accidentally. And so now it turns out even pets can buy stuff online without you knowing. Hence this woman, this woman's parrot placed an order through Alexa without her knowing it. I think she probably got to the bottom of the situation pretty quick when an entire semi-tractor trailer full of crackers pulled up. She was like, I know what happened.
Crackers, rat! You ordered 5,000 crackers. More crackers, rat! Double it!
Go on.
7-Eleven is going to start offering restaurant quality meals. I'm sorry, restaurant quality meals.
I like the other one better. Do that again.
I can't do it again. Restaurant quality meals.
Sure, the restaurant whose quality they plan to match for starters is, I believe, Hardee's. But hey, you got to begin somewhere.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away.
More AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you my musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD, and can't nobody rock a body better than me. Back once again.
So, right-wing support for the idea of universal basic income. We'll get to that a little later on, and it's kind of a surprising thing because, as you and I discussed earlier, the idea that everybody should just get some money for doing nothing is, well, a lot of people would say that you could not be a fiscal conservative and recommend this, but there's a conservative political scientist that is all about it because apparently it would do a lot to shrink programs that fiscal conservatives don't care for in government. It's an interesting one. We'll get into it later. Would you like some free money from the government and still manage to remain a conservative?
I just want a statue is all I'm saying.
Thank you, Bernie. What else?
Oh, man, did you hear about the trouble with the Apple Watch? Oh, there's trouble.
Well, Yeah, isn't it? Do you have an Apple Watch?
No, but I've seen it. I hear there's like gambling cheaters out there that cheated on a game somehow.
Oh, no. I guess they use an Apple Watch to steal. The Boston Red Sox use Apple Watches to steal people's signals. And I don't know how they did it, but they got popped for it and they got fined for it. So it must be a thing. But yeah, no, the trouble with the new Apple Watch is that feature that lets you make phone calls directly from your wrist doesn't work. That whole sort of like Dick Tracy thing doesn't work with the new Apple Watch. If you take it to your local Genius Bar, there's going to be at least a 2-hour wait to be condescended to as well, so that's a problem. Do you favor Apple products?
Oh, you have a watch problem? Oh, you got a watch problem, huh? What, did you try restarting it?
You need a new one.
You don't even know how to restart it?
Get the new one. Yeah, just get the new one. Okay, if you want to use that one, okay, all right. I know it's a day and a half old. Okay, Grandpa, fine. Stick with what you're comfortable with. I guess I'll never forget my one and only experience like going into an Apple store because I have a Mac that I use for music and music production for a while, and they were just like, yeah, get a new one. And that was the whole thing. I was like, I don't want a new one. I want this to work. They're like, but a new one will do this, this, and this. I was like, I'm used to this one. I like this one. I really just need... And it wasn't even like that. It wasn't something integral to the software with it. It was... I think it was just something like it needed a new... You know how they had all these weird shapes? I think the stand for the monitor broke, so I needed a new... Something like that. Like, needed a new monitor. Like, okay, if you really want to monitor to this one... fine, but we don't make it anymore. We're not going to talk to you about it. Your best bet is eBay. Just get a new one. I was just like, geez. A very unpleasant experience, and I've been a PC guy ever since.
Yeah, that's my last time with the Apple. I had about 6 hours to update to Apple X10 OS, whatever it's called, and it broke my phone. My alarm didn't go off the next morning, and then when it came on, it didn't have any of my pictures or my contacts. It was a travesty. And then I had a backup, but it was from last April.
Oh.
All the people that I met between now and then, gone. Poof.
The Google phones work pretty well. I know that they're absolutely tracking my every last move and listening to me while I'm, not supposed to be being listened to, because like I'll mention something like, I hear Santorini in Greece is nice. Because it's not far from where my dad lives in Kosovo, right? And my dad would go to parts of Greece for long weekends. And I remember having this conversation a little while ago. I was like, yeah, Santorini in Greece is supposed to be nice. I think my dad goes there. Next time I open up Google, it's like trips to Santorini. I'm like, come on, be a little less obvious with it. It's a little on the nose, wouldn't you say? And that, bums me the hell out. But I do enjoy using my Google phone. I have an iPhone as well. But the thing that I like about the Google phone is you just save it to your Google whatever the hell it is, and then you buy a new phone, open up that Google account, and your phone is exactly the same. It kind of takes away some of the excitement of getting a new phone, because right out of the box, once you download your account into it, as everybody knows, it looks exactly like the phone that you just had. Same background picture, same screen lock, same all of the above. And it's just wildly convenient. You never have to worry about losing contacts ever again. And I like my iPhone too, but I like two buttons. That one button thing that Mac does, not for me.
Okay. 60-year-old Linda Hamilton is returning to the Terminator franchise. Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you yesterday, but bras are out. And
what does that have to do with Linda Hamilton?
She never wore one in Terminator. I just go back and watch it. Yeah, it's great flick.
Well, I don't remember that. Huh? Interesting. She's 60 now, though. Was Angela Lansbury unavailable? Terminator, she wrote. This time she's going to need her son's help not only to defeat the robot uprising, but also to program her cable box to record NCIS.
I have all these shows recorded. How do I access them?
60-year-old Linda Hamilton will face the challenges of not only defeating a robot uprising, but also understanding why it is she doesn't have to sign each text Linda. Do you have old relatives that do that, Funkhouser?
No. No, Grandma's pretty hip. She's on Facebook liking stuff.
I don't know. I think it's awesome. I think it's really, really cool that. Look, this is a world where
Tom Hanks still does it on Twitter. Hanks, HANX. It's like, oh, come on, Tom. Somebody's got to talk to you.
With someone like that, though, I think you need to make it clear that it's you and not a member of your staff. Like, this is actually Tom Hanks tweeting. Here I am taking responsibility for my tweets. I think that is understandable that they would do that. But yeah, Linda Hamilton's 60 years old. She's back as part of the Terminator franchise. And if there's one thing that's been made abundantly clear by folks in Hollywood is that if you're a female actor, you tend to be out of work by the time you hit around 35 or 40, if not much, much sooner. So the fact that she's starring in this massive motion picture franchise at age 60, I think it's cool. I mean, it's similar to like Harrison Ford being in the Blade Runner sequel and the Star Wars sequel and the Indiana Jones continuation and all of the above. But I think this is, well, Carrie Fisher, but this is the first time we've seen like a woman who is a standalone star have her role reprised in something like that at the age of 60. So I think that's pretty cool.
Leave the stimulation to the professionals.
Everyone is so smart.
KPRC, more stimulating talk radio.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The dumbing up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So conservative political scientist Charles Murray is out and about advocating for the idea of universal basic income. This idea that we should all just get free money from the government. And this is a distinctly lefty thing, but Charles Murray and a bunch of other conservatives are jumping on this. And I'm just curious to get your take on it. At ADSXE is where you can tweet me, or you can tweet Funkhouser at FunkFM. The idea of universal basic income. What do you make of it? Is it a yes or is it a no?
I'm going to need more information on that there.
Well, we'll get.
I'll wait till the end of the show there to hear
right.
more. I'm a very patient person.
We'll get into it a little later, but it used to be a very clear-cut thing. This is a distinctly non-conservative idea, no, from the people on the right. And even people on the left were like, hold on, you're just going to give people money that they don't work for? Wait a second. Is that un-American? Is that anti everything that we stand for? The idea that we as Americans should pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, work, and get where we're going. Well, like I said, it's become a multi-layered argument and an interesting one. I'm very curious to know what you think. By the way, for the record, I don't know what I think of it yet, but it's it's kind of fascinating to watch it unfold, especially as people from anything that attracts support from someone who wouldn't support it on paper, I'm kind of into, just interested in. Anytime you can get people to sort of like, rather than just blanket think straight ticket this or that, and go, well, maybe this person on the other side has something interesting that we can learn from, or this is a good idea we want to cherry pick from people that we don't necessarily usually agree with. Anything that is thought-provoking enough that it gets people to think outside the box of whatever it is they've designated themselves politically, that's interesting to me, which is why we're going to talk about it later on. All right, what else?
And use some good words in it, too. It'll be more attractive to the people. Sean Penn will star in a TV show about the first colonists on Mars.
I think that's something that a lot of people hope we could always do someday. Send Sean Penn to Mars.
For research only, sir. You'll be back in a month. James Corden, he says he feels bad that he kissed Sean Spicer at the Emmys.
Yeah, James Corden. What show does he do? The Late Show?
Late Show.
So whose gig did he take?
Craig
goes on
Ferguson.
After David Letterman. All right, so he goes on after David Letterman, and he took Craig Ferguson's gig when Craig Ferguson decided he didn't want it. When they gave the job to Stephen Colbert, Craig Ferguson was like, "Thank you very much, I'm out," because I think that had been sort of like dangled in front of him for years. And he was like, if you're not giving me that, then I'm just going to go do my own freaking thing. And so they got another person from across the pond, James Corden, to host it. And James Corden has been a huge hit, thanks mostly, I think,
Let's go for a drive.
Yeah, carpool karaoke. And at the Emmys, not so long ago, Sean Spicer was trotted out. And he was like, we can all be friends, and kiss Sean Spicer. And he got a lot of heat from that, for that, from people on the left and the right. They're like, look at this guy cozying up, forgetting all the egregious sins that he committed against America, and the fact that he openly said he felt bad about lying for our president. This guy's part of the problem. And look at James Corden, only too eager to make nice with him and kissing him. There's a picture of him kissing Sean Spicer on the cheek. And he said that he feels bad that he did it. Dude. Pretend like it's a salad and ignore it.
Just an actor.
I like James Corden. He's fun. There's a
He was on with Chelsea, and that was really good. You should watch
Chelsea.
that.
Chelsea who? Handler? Mm-hmm. I can't get into Chelsea Handler. I can't.
I'm not asking you to do that. Just watch the interview with James Corden if you like James. He's good.
And I used to really enjoy Chelsea lately. I like when that thing first started. I was like, oh, it's so much fun, and like I just can't. And not that it matters to anyone, least of all Chelsea Handler, but I just can't get into.
I watch it when I'm vacuuming.
Go on.
Megyn Kelly says the country is divided right now.
Although judging by the ratings, all Americans are united in one thing: her desire not to watch her new NBC show. That has not gone well. Like, she, at the height of her fame, right when she got into it with Donald Trump, jumped ship from Fox to NBC. And you know what I saw? Like, she's got, I guess, a daytime show. It's like Megyn Kelly Today or something like that. Huh. Is that the Today show? I don't know. I don't watch daytime television. I don't really follow what goes on with TV. I don't watch cable news. I get most of my news from the interwebs and try and find as many sources as possible.
Well, you have a job. You don't watch that stuff during the day.
Right. Yeah, I guess there's that. I have a job. Therefore, I don't get the luxury of going, what's Megyn Kelly talking about today? But she's, Fox News chick, distinctly conservative and, more than reasonably right wing, or at least that's what her history is. And she's having the cast of Will and Grace on. Did you see this? Like, I was like, how's that gonna go? Like, what exactly is the move here? Like, is this sort of like an attempt to sort of like make her a bit more of a centrist thing? Because,
it's been done before with other people.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I think when she bailed from Fox to NBC...
Geraldo. Look at Geraldo. I guess he went the other way, though.
One thing that Fox News watchers are not going to do, and it doesn't matter how big of a star you are in that world, they are not going to follow you to something that they view as being part of the lamestream media. Like, Megyn Kelly's Fox fans are not going to jump ship with her and sit there and watch as she interviews the cast of Will and Grace. That's not what they're watching TV for. They watch TV to be riled up and find what they think is the truth. And this is the same on CNN, and this is the same on Fox, just different sides of the same coin. And people are not going to follow a Megyn Kelly, no matter how high her star has risen, to something like this. So I think there's this idea that, all right, well, we're not going to get the bump that we thought we would from her Fox fans. So we've got to somehow make her appeal in a little bit more of a mass way to people on the left. Like, the country's split 50-50, almost exactly right down the middle at the moment. And if they're trying to appeal to all of that, and there's a bunch of people that don't want to watch her because she's the former Fox News chick, they got to make a move to get her a bit more of a broader audience. And I got to imagine that having the cast of Will and Grace on is all part of that.
Look, I'm a people. She's like, I'm a people. I talk to people. I'm also a people.
Yeah.
Like 6 or so. We got time for more news if you want.
Yeah, let's do a little bit more.
Rachel Bilson and Hayden Christensen have split up.
Okay.
Who and who?
Well, see, you don't watch Star Wars. Hayden Christensen was in Star Wars. He's the Darth Vader guy. Rachel Bilson. I feel like she was in a commercial for candy where you're just like, she used to be Rachel Bilson. To Google.
What have you stumbled across there?
She was in the OC. Did you ever watch that
there
show?
are a lot of pretty people in the OC.
Yeah. She was one of them, I guess. Wow, we're all growing up. Rachel Bilson's the same age as us.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember being a kid and watching her and thinking like, they're kids like us? And she's now 36. But Rachel Bilson.
How's she holding up there? Probably
looks
good.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah. Rachel Bilson and Hayden Christensen have split up. They were together for 10 years. During two of which they were famous. I think Hayden Christensen is like, he's all mad about Star Wars because he says it absolutely ruined his career. Like, people hated him as Darth Vader. People hated the Star Wars reboots, and it was supposed to make him into this tremendous star. And, he was very well paid for a little while because he was Darth Vader dude. And then it all sort of went badly pear-shaped for him afterwards. So he walks around with a bunch of resentment towards Star Wars. And I think like he has these weird sort of antisocial behaviors, which is why these two people we haven't talked about in 10 years have split up. But I think it stems in no small part to I could be way off, but I think he's sort of like openly angry about Star Wars coming back. He's like, and has been difficult to live with ever since then. So Star Wars has ruined their relationship. There you go. What else?
Well, hi, everybody. Billy Bush and his wife has separated. Oh, no, there's a job opening.
As a result, she gets 50% of his public disgrace. Donald Trump doing just fine. Billy Bush, yeah, he's in the weeds for the rest of his career. Just flotsam in the wake of the Trump hurricane.
Unless he pivots, he has a chance to pivot.
I don't think he does. I don't think he does, because it's just, you know what, the thing that
you better get to it later. We got to get to the other thing.
Well, the thing that I think ruined Billy Bush is that he didn't stand up and say that's not okay. That's what people are mad about. Or he didn't express any distaste. The idea that he was weak-spined enough to just want to play the hell along is what destroyed that guy. If he went, really, Donald? Okay, all right. What the hell? I think he'd be just fine. In fact, I think he'd be a bit of a hero now. But he went, Donald, you're such a card. So the idea of UBI, Universal Basic Income, is an interesting one. A lot of lefties have talked about universal basic income, where the government would pay each citizen a small income. Some people on the right have started jumping on the idea, though. Charles Murray says he supports UBI because, and this is the conservative argument for it, it would eliminate the welfare state and shrink government, because you could end things like Social Security, Medicare, food stamps, housing subsidies, supplemental security income, WIC, agricultural subsidies, corporate welfare, and every other kind of welfare and social services program with a UBI, Universal Basic Income, money that you get for doing nothing. It just becomes more sort of your choice how you spend it. He was asked to defend the UBI from a conservative point of view, and he said, well, the simplest case from the conservative point of view is the current system is awful, and replacing it all by just giving people money is better. It's Milton Friedman's argument, and he made the case a long time ago. It's part of the reason. But he said the main reason is, I've got a couple. One is that I think that we're going to see a revolution in the job market in the next 20 or 30 years. And this is going to require us to define what the meaning of a job is. I have a lot of economist friends who say this plan is not different and so forth, but I believe that. The second thing is that we have to revive American civil society. By civil society, I mean communities solving their own problems in dealing with each other, and all the things that have made America a very special place for decades and decades, which is disappearing. And oddly enough, with universal basic income, I think it can give a big boost to revitalizing that. And a lot of people would say it's almost the opposite of that. It's a distinctly un-American thing. But this is Murray's argument for it, and it's kind of a compelling one. He said if we gave everybody $50,000 a year, yeah, okay, in that case, you'd have a problem. In my plan, I'd give $10,000 a year of disposable income. Healthcare is taken care of otherwise, but you get an additional $10,000 a year for doing nothing. and you can't really make much of a decent living. If you get a job, though, you could easily be above the poverty line. But guess what? If you're a couple that's making $20,000 a year that you can get from a low-paying job, and all at once that low-paying job pays $15,000 a year for each of you, that's 30 plus 20, that's $50,000, and you're moving toward a middle-class lifestyle. So it's not enough to completely bail you out and make you not work, but it would be just enough to put you above the poverty line, and it would allow people to, I think differently if they had an extra $10,000 in their bank account every single year. Wouldn't you say, Funkhouser?
Well, yes, I would agree with that, but I have more questions.
Yeah, I have a lot more questions too, but anytime an idea attracts people from both sides of the fence, that is fascinating to me.